Hello my friends and welcome to the end of the year for the Nirvana anime and games that is the Asian Zone.
Yes, it's been quite the year, hasn't it? I reviewed a lot more games and have been improving my review quality, little by little. Whether it was successful or not is your guys' call, but at least I've gotten a decent response. Yeah, I reviewed mostly Danganronpa and Super Robot Tyson, and we'll probably do more of those in the near future, but I've also reunited with an old friend in Digimon, with some great and some okay-ish reunions.
And lastly, I changed my review outfit. Twice. In 1 year. What can I say? I enjoy trying on new things. But for the time being, I think I'll stick with this sort of Barakamon cosplay look. I mean, I certainly look good in Jinbei, don't you think? Oh yeah, now that I think about it, I also have my mortal enemy currently crashing on my couch. Which, by the way... Were you ever going to tell me what happened?
Yeah, we'll continue the storyline in the next video. But first, I gotta watch some Jessica Jones.
I enjoy helping people, but he's really pushing it. But anyway, let's talk about what's going to happen next year, shall we?
I've got a few plans, including some new games, as well as a couple of tokusatsu to review, which will be a bit of a longer project, so be patient on that one. Though, before we get there, maybe we should reflect on this year and the anime it brought us. Right off the bat, I'll say this was a pretty darn good year overall. There were some flunkers and quite a few it was okay kind of shows, but overall we did get some really good stuff that made up for a lot of it. To prove a point, let's break down each season of this year with what I personally thought were some of the new anime hits and misses of 2015. My rules are as follow. Since I'm focusing on new anime, I won't bring up sequels. I would have to reflect on my thoughts of the previous seasons of those shows if I ever saw them in the first place, which leads into my next rule. I'll just bring up shows that I watched at least the first 3 episodes of, as it is the normal cutoff period for a lot of anime viewers.
Lastly, I'm going to categorize each anime as follows. Met my expectations, disappointed them, and surpassed them. With that in mind, let's talk about this year's winter season of anime. Was a really decent way to start off the year. I mean, there weren't a lot of anime that surpassed my expectations, but there also weren't a ton that necessarily disappointed me, and even those that did weren't terrible per se.
That said, I'm probably going to get flack for this one, but I have to put this show in the disappointed section. Granted, some of my problems with AntiCollision came from my own slightly high expectations, but how could I not have some expectations after seeing entire sections of both Toro no Ana and Melon books dedicated to it? Interestingly enough, I'd imagine some of those doujinshi were probably more interesting than the anime we got. For those who don't know, AntiCollision is based off of a mobile game in which players take control of personified and modified versions of old Japanese warships.
What?
Oh, but wait, there's more. You see, the bad guys they take on are Eldritch Abominations, whose higher-ups are also made up of moe anime girls.
Oh, that's okay then. No, actually I think I'm gonna go back to my first reaction. What?!
Yeah, it's every bit as ridiculous a concept as it sounds, but I've always believed that even the most ridiculous concept can have some merit behind it. I mean, I'm certainly not one of those who are going to go all up in arms saying that they disgrace the dignity of old battleships and the wars they fought in. No, I'm more bothered by the fact that they didn't go all the way over the top with this silly-ass concept. In my opinion, they tried to play this anime way too seriously, with actual deaths and consequences, even though this is a pretty basic good versus evil story, and even then, their attempts at world building were really suspect. In my opinion, they should have just focused a lot more on the girls themselves, cause, you know, that's what made the games popular in the first place. I was actually kind of invested in these characters, especially Udachi. Yes, we all love her, and every time she says poi, I kind of want to go down to my local supermarket and buy her some. Unfortunately, they just didn't spend enough time actually developing these characters, and thus we couldn't really make any real connection with them. Instead, we cut back to the rather underwhelming war aspect of the anime. If they had actually played the battles a little bit more over the top, then I might have been a bit more invested, despite some very noticeable CGI. Sadly though, I can only see wasted potential in this show. While I've never played the original games, I've heard those who have were disappointed with the show, and I can see why. And I know that this kind of concept can be done right, like with maybe Strike Witches, and with another show that came out during the spring season that I will discuss, but first let's get through the rest of the winter season.
So, after watching the wasted potential of moe girls who skate on water with huge ass cannons on their backs, seriously, how could you mess that up? I need something to cleanse the palate. Thankfully though, I found it. In a harem anime of all things.
Sainai Herui no Sodate Kata surpassed my expectations as far as harem anime about making a visual novel go. Nowadays, I never have many expectations for harem anime to begin with, but it worked here because it brought some interesting twists to the table. First and foremost, frickin' Kato, easily one of my favorite heroines of this season. She is just so delightfully deadpan and yet kind of snarky at times. You know how rare it is to find a legitimately sane person in anime of all things? I mean, even the straight men of Gintama quickly reveal some quirkier sides. But no, Kato remains a perfect foil to the insanity around her. Admit, if you were surrounded by these many anime stereotypes, you'd have the same reactions. Which, while we're on the subject, let's talk about these guys. Tomoya is basically Kirito in glasses, he even has the same voice actor. Granted, while he is a bit of a typical harem hero, at least he actually speaks his mind and is delightfully hammy. Eri is also a typical tsundere, but she's at least aware of this fact and even knows where she lies on the food chain. This is the key to why I like this anime. It knows that it's a bit of a formulaic harem anime, but instead of merely playing to the tropes, it actually deconstructs many of them through Kato's commentary, as well as the character's own self-awareness. Uta in particular gives no crap about the fourth wall.
なんで歌先輩がここに
そんなの前回全く出番がなかったからに決まってるでしょ
As a result, many of the jokes do hit the mark. Throw in some good animation and music, especially the opening, and you get a bit of a hidden gem in my eyes. Again, while they did surpass my expectations, they were pretty low to begin with. Still, if you have the time, I would really recommend giving the show a watch, especially if you're tired of main heroines who insist on being either hammy and or overly moe blobs. Plain Jane Kato has you covered.
もっとヒロインらしい行動パターンってものがあるだろ
いきなりそんなドン引きな態度取られてどうやって緊張しろっていうのかな
For anyone who's seen my kitchen, they can probably guess I am a bit of a foodie. My mother practically raised me to enjoy watching the Food Network, and as a result, I love trying out new recipes. The main character of Gourmet Girl Graffiti is a lot like me in that regard, especially since Japanese cooking is easily my favorite. Throughout the series, Rio learns to become a better cook. She needs to, as her cousin is a bit of a glutton. Okay, snark aside, this anime can be pretty damn heartwarming, as Rio and King do kind of find some interesting little connections through cuisine. Just like a good hot pot, this anime gives you a nice warm feeling inside through some really relaxing slice of life moments. Now granted, I think some of the reactions are a tad bit over the top. Nowhere near Yakitate Japan levels, but certainly nearing When Harry Met Sally. Yeah, I don't know whose bright idea it was to hand over production to frickin' Studio Shaft of all places, but I'll give them this, they certainly know how to make it look really tasty. The food, I mean. Now admittedly, I've seen a lot of Japanese food shows where they have reactions that would put Guy Fieri to shame, but Shaft is the anime studio who hasn't even heard of the word subtle.
Actually, here's a fun little drinking game. Take a shot every time somebody does a shaft turn. You know, that little neck turn where they look behind you like, ow, ow. Okay, mental note, never do the shaft turn. It is entirely pointless and hurts.
The point is, while the reactions are over the top, it does serve to make the food look good as opposed to just being plain old erotic or something. I mean, it's not as though they're eating something that's a little bit phallic shaped like, oh.
カップのバニラアイスではもたらされないラクトアイスならではの爽やかさ
Okay, just for one episode, okay, give them that much. Overall, Gourmet Girl Graffiti met my expectations for a slice of life anime about food. If you're not a foodie like me, then you might not find this all that interesting. But still, you might like it for the cute girls and a very comforting slice of life atmosphere. That and an absolute earworm of an ending theme. Damn you, Japan, and your catchy tunes!
This next show probably needs no real introduction. But damn it, that intro is pretty damn catchy.
Yep, Death Parade should already be well known amongst a lot of anime viewers this year. For those who haven't seen it, it's basically what would happen where instead of that sort of out-of-place high school setting from Angel Beats, Purgatory turned out to be a massive underground bar where those who have passed on come in groups of two and play against each other in games. The two players would often in some way have been connected with each other in real life. Either they knew each other in some way, or as is more often the case, they were somehow connected to each other's deaths. Through the games, the players discover the truth about one another, and depending on their conduct, they'll either be reincarnated or have their souls sent to the void. On concept alone, the anime sounded really good to me, but by the end of the series, I was beyond impressed. Almost every episode introduces fascinating quandaries about human nature. How would you actually judge whether or not a person deserved to essentially be damned? After all, isn't it possible that everyone has at least a little bit of a dark side in them? If they do, is it right to force it out? I mean, there are bad people out there who deserve to have their uglier sides exposed, but there are also good people out there who just happen to make morally wrong decisions in a moment of weakness. These sorts of questions and stories are brought up within a mere 24 minutes in a lot of these episodes. Just the fact that most of these episodes can be standalone is a big point in my books. It goes to show that you don't always have to have a big, complicated, overarching storyline. You just need to tell a good story. That said, there's also a great character arc in this anime in regards to the main barkeep, Dekim, and his relationship with a nameless woman who, due to having convenient amnesia and no partner to play with, ends up spending a lot of her time with him. With her help, Dekim slowly starts to understand the plethora of human emotions that go through someone in their final moments. The ending to this anime is one of the best I've seen this year. That said, I kind of wish the other characters got some more development. I mean, this elevator guy looks kind of interesting. Still, if one of my complaints is that I want a second season, then they're doing something right. I would highly recommend going to this bar, maybe pick up a nice martini, and then play a little game of life and death. On the other end of the spectrum from Death Parade, let's look at what was easily my biggest anime disappointment of the winter season. Yatterman Night started off so good, but it fell apart completely by its final act. Though, before I start to vent, maybe we should give a little background. Yatterman Night is a darker, grittier take on old Tatsunoko anime. You've probably seen the title characters as well as the main antagonist of that series, Doronjo, in Capcom vs Tatsunoko. Though, rather than the Yatterman, this anime starred the descendants of Doronjo and her two lackeys. Yeah, much like Hokkaido, the villains of Yatterman proved to be every bit as popular as the heroes, so they got their own anime. And just like Hokkaido and his spin-off movie, it's a post-apocalyptic setting where the remains of humanity are being enslaved by robotic copycats of the original heroes. So now, of all people, it's up to the descendants of a gang of villains who were pretty much the original Team Rocket to save the day. The first 4 episodes of this anime were so great. They established the characters, the world, and the massive conflict they were facing from taking back the world from such a corrupt authority. As someone who hasn't even seen the original series, I was really getting into this anime. I love dystopian stories, and I really like the characters, especially the new Doronjo. To me, not only was she adorable, but she was also a well-realized child character. You know, one that actually has a playful side and doesn't sound like a robot. and also doesn't come off as too annoying. But sadly, the middle part of the series was nothing but pointless filler episodes trying to stuff in as many shoutouts to other Tatsunoko anime as possible, and then they had a really rushed finale with a very predictable villain reveal for anyone who has a passing knowledge of the original series. And it was all topped off with one of the worst final battles I've ever seen in an anime. Which is a real shame because there was a good anime here, but it ended up getting mulled down by a lack of focus. I have no idea whose idea it was to waste 4 episodes of a 12-episode anime on filler, but I hope they were blacklisted. Now, don't get me wrong, this was far from the worst thing I saw this year, or even of the winter season. Seriously, why is this show getting a second season? There were shows that were far worse in terms of pacing, and this certainly was watchable, but as far as wasted potential is concerned, this one certainly takes the winter season by far. If you want my suggestion, just watch the first 3 episodes. It tells a complete enough story with really good animation and music. Believe me, I'm saving you from a really lousy stock footage ridden climax.
There is one more anime that started late into the winter season that I kind of want to talk about, but since it's not finished yet, we'll have to save it for another day, unfortunately. Still yet, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you felt there were any winter anime that I should have included on this list, be sure to comment below. Next time though, we'll tackle the spring season. Until then though, farewell for now my friends.